Hi there, guys. So I'm head of visual content at a company called Immersively, and we look at new ways to tell stories and produce production workflows for telling the news in virtual reality. So last year I travelled to Hong Kong to shoot a short 360-degree documentary of the pro-democracy protests out there. If you haven't seen this already, you can go to www.hongkongunrest.com and have a look. So what was interesting, though, there was the time we actually released it. On the very same day, we heard news that 2 other productions had been released in the States, also shooting news stories in virtual reality. And with the advent of YouTube just about to support 360-degree video, it means that not only are people hungry for this kind of content, but also it's starting to actually enter into the mainstream, which is, I think, a new thing that we're going to start seeing. What I want to know, however, is virtual reality going to be the future of broadcast television? I want to start off by just saying I love virtual reality. I think it's incredible. 360-degree video is a really, really immersive experience to have. But I think 360-degree video, at least, is at the stage that cinema was many years ago, and it's just being put out there, where you have the story of people going into a cinema and they see footage of a train coming at them, and everybody in the cinema puts their hands up because they think they're about to get hit. I think we're at a very similar stage in which the content that we put out there, particularly in 360-degree video, is designed to have that kind of wow effect. It's very easy to put your headset onto somebody and show them content like this, skiing off a cliff with a paraglide on, that kind of stuff, and then to say, wow, this is the future, this is incredible. But it's really easy to misinterpret that as somebody saying, this is something that I actually want to watch again and again and again and come back to the same as I come back to my TV. So I think the solution to this is we still have a lot of work we need to do, a lot of development we need to look into. For example, do we need to have 360-degree spherical video? Can we make do just with surrounding your vision in 180 degrees? Do we need stereoscopic? Do we need 3D sound? How can we utilize content that people have already produced for normal video production workflows in virtual reality? One solution to this, I think, which is interesting, is something called foveated extrapolation. This basically means taking a 2D frame and using some computer mathematics to figure out what is outside that frame. So you can now drag and drop a piece of video content into a virtual reality environment and extrapolate that scene around you. That's incredibly powerful when you've produced all this content and might want to actually put it into this new VR medium. Another way to use existing production workflows is to look at things like compositing, which we heard in the previous talk. So this is a screen grab of a piece we did back in September. We actually shot a short piece with actors in a 360-degree green screen studio, a short piece from Shakespeare's Twelfth Night. And after we keyed out that footage, we drag and dropped a different 360-degree photo that we took in another part of the UK. By using these same kind of workflows, we're opening up additional ways that content producers can actually put their content out into virtual reality devices. Recently, there was a meta-analysis study from the Virtual Human Interaction Lab at Stanford University, and they said more than anything else, user tracking, that's positional tracking, moving your head, stereoscopic, that's 3D content, being able to judge depth, and a wide field of view headset are crucially important for achieving that idea of presence, that idea that you are actually there in the scene that you're looking at. This is above quality of visual content and quality of audio as well. Now, this leaves us in a little bit of a peculiar situation with 360-degree video because it's inherently hard to actually produce that kind of content. So what I think we need to do is we need to get out of the boundaries that we might put ourselves in with producing previous content. We need to stop thinking in 16:9 or 4:3 and look at the different tool sets that are now available to us. So something like this movie like Avatar, they actually only used maybe 30% footage that was actually shot The rest of it was CG. They're actually taking the idea of storytelling, and they've got a screen, and they're figuring out new ways to produce content for that. I think that's really, really interesting. So what happens when we start to think differently in virtual reality? One thing that I think is coming up at the moment are these shared social experiences, such as VR chat, which recently celebrated its anniversary. They had this hosted space in this virtual world where people from all around the world could come and gather. They then went from VR chat to another platform called Janus VR, which is a way of experiencing 3D websites, and then finally finished off in RiftMax, which this very conference is being streamed to right now with that camera right at the very back. Another platform similar to this is AltSpace VR. They actually streamed the Super Bowl into one of their shared environments, which is an incredibly powerful way to share an experience with someone that might be not sitting on the sofa next to you. So all this kind of indicates that television and gaming are coming together. We already know that this is happening with platforms like Xbox and PlayStation trying to be at the very, very center of your home entertainment experience. And I think PlayStation particularly have got an incredibly powerful opportunity here to really claim that social space in virtual reality with headsets like their Morpheus, which is coming out later. But where does this leave video producers? Well, I think we need to start looking at the new tool sets we've got. And if you look at this image here, believe it or not, this is actually a 3D model. This was produced with a technique called photogrammetry, which is producing 3D models from a set of different cameras. Once you realize that when you have facial tracking, you can actually animate these scenes, you can then use that to place into virtual environments. And I think we are still a few years off being ready to actually put into consumers' hands because it requires a lot of computational power, but it's starting to give hints at what it might look like. So, getting back to the original question, is VR going to be the future of broadcast television? Is 360-degree video going to be the future of broadcast television? I think the future of broadcast television has already been shown. It's YouTube. They turned content consumers into content producers, which is unlike anything that we've seen before, and that's going to be incredibly powerful, and it's going to grow even going into the future from here. I think the important thing is, virtual reality is not the same as strapping a 3D screen to your head. It's just not. The venture capitalist Mark Andreessen said the big thing about VR people are underestimating is the sledgehammer emotional impact of the medium. Images on screens do not compare. I think this is incredibly true. So when you look at television, we look at telephones, we look at telehaptics, this is all tele, seeing something from a distance, vision, seeing something, phone, hearing something at a distance, haptic, feeling something at a distance. I think we should take this opportunity to coin a new term using tele-horror, which is experiencing something at a distance. It's taking all of your senses and putting them into a single device, which happens to be virtual reality. It's only once we start thinking about virtual reality as this incredibly powerful medium that we can really see the potential of what virtual reality could become. Thanks very much. If you want to follow us immersively or any questions about producing video content in 360-degree, either ask me now or tweet me at @tweetedmiller. Thanks very much.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Ed. Fascinating. I'm sure you'll agree. So, do we have any questions? Excellent. There's two right next to each other. So we'll go for the guy in the back row with the beard. Not the back row, the back of the two rows. I'd never make David Dimbleby, would I, with my rubbish identification skills? Far away.
Yeah, we've been experimenting with 360 film for virtual reality. One of the problems we've had at the minute is motion. So it's the idea of the having inertia, which is not generated by the user or the viewer, and it generates that kind of cyber sickness. Have you any comments on how to possibly approach that at all?
Yeah. So in the Hong Kong documentary, there are some moments that get pretty prickly. It's right in the very centre of a riot between police and protesters, pepper spray and all. And the idea, we had this camera suspended up in the air, and that's probably the most disorientating moment when the camera is actually moving. I think it's all just going to be part of the storybook, the rule book that new producers are going to have to run by. They're going to realize that actually going from stationary to in motion, that acceleration is really uncomfortable, and you're going to have to tell your stories around that, basically. The same as video capture techniques. There are lots of different ways of capturing video technology. We're just using a GoPro rig at the moment to capture this conference. But when you start putting stereoscopic capture into there, you might have to lock down the camera completely, which again has like an extra specification what you can and can't do with VR video.
Great, thank you.
The chap immediately in front of you had a question, so if you could pass him the mic.
Hi.
Hi.
Interested, you started your speech talking about the Hong Kong protests.
Mm-hmm.
As a former journalist, TV journalist, I can't see it being that technique being useful for news, because news, especially now, the dynamic is to get it out as quick as you possibly can.
Yeah.
So am I right in thinking in terms of news it's a more of a documentary format where you've got time to go away and render it and do whatever?
Yeah, so the thing about news is if we're wanting to find out what's happening right now, we don't put on the TV actually. We look to Twitter, we look to Facebook. That's where we're getting factual information from. I think there's going to be a big trend with news companies realizing this, and the only way that they can stay afloat is actually returning to the long form. So one of the other companies that I said released at the same time as the Hong Kong video was Vice News. They covered the protests that happened out in where was it, out in the States. I think they've really seen the opportunity, especially with their YouTube videos as well, to produce long-form, compelling content in a way that the average user now actually can't do. So I think, especially when the graphics for CG match photographs, you're going to think, why would I produce something with cameras if I can just easily produce it sitting in front of a desk at a computer? And I think actually capturing live events, things which are happening right now, momentous occasions, it's going to be the only way that you can actually, the only reason why you would use traditional cameras when you're trying to capture that, something that's incredibly real.
Yeah, I know, because Associated Press Television, the world's biggest agency, already using citizen journalism, Bambuser. They take their live streams and they all think they have to take an hour or two to make sure it's kosher, and then they're increasingly turning to live streaming from people out in the streets.
Yeah.
Nice one.
Great. Any more?
I don't know. Yeah, there's one to my right, just there. I was going to say, if Vice are doing it, it's probably worth doing at the moment, isn't it? They keep getting it right.
If nothing else, it was validation that we're on the right track. Yeah. Hi there.
Hi. So there's a real sort of hybrid that's happening more and more. I read recently that ESPN is unable to keep up with something like Vine. So they actually they look at Vine and Twitter to see what's being put 5 seconds later onto the web, and then it goes viral, and then they pick that up, and they've got to run with that. So I think all of the sort of broadcast mediums are going to have to deal with this kind of hybrid of platforms of content creators also giving back while they're taking at the same time. So in terms of storytelling, that's going to be difficult to keep up with. And is it going to be one track? Is it going to be several tracks?
Nobody knows. Nobody knows. Yeah. You can either hedge your bets on a particular area and say, I'm just going to make sure, there are lots of companies that are making a single stereoscopic camera that only captures maybe 180-degree field of view, and they think that's the way they're going to tell stories. Or you could produce a variety of different content, look at the different formats, I guess, that are out there, and just, do a bit of R&D, like I said. Yeah.
Nice one. I can see a hand over there. Yeah, brilliant. We should perhaps make this the last one.
Hi, I'm just interested about how you see, you're talking about the fact that watching things together, say like the Super Bowl, and I can see how that's really useful, say if you had friends maybe across the country and you want to watch the thing together. How do you see, do you see people going to do the same, say, if they're all in the living room together, or do you think that's going to be just a different case?
It's hard to predict what the consumers are going to do with this content at the moment. I think that's the main thing. Like I said in the talk, people will have a look at your content and they'll say, that's awesome. But are they actually going to sit and have shared experiences with that on the sofa together? I'm not sure. Maybe that's something more for, Magic Leap, which is incredibly interested. And I think the idea that VR and AR are coming together in this new term, mixed reality, I think that's going to answer that question. But we're a few years away from that, at least.
Cool.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry, yeah, carry on if you want it.
No, just thank you.
Oh,
Thanks.
nice one.
Thanks.
A lovely note to end on. So, yeah, brilliant. Thanks so much for that talk. Fascinating
Thank
stuff.
you. Thanks, guys.